Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We are here at it again. I know it's a little bit of a probably a busy day with March Madness happening, but we're here nonetheless. Today we're welcoming Alex's good friend Tony. We are happy to have him. And
boy Tony.
Today's topic, we're going to talk a little bit about talk to Tony a little bit about his life as a gay black man in America, and also a little bit about some transgender ideologies and what that community has been putting forth. And we'll probably get into a little bit of talk about racism, given some of the happenings that have happened in Atlanta recently, and elsewhere. But without further ado, I'll let Tony talk a little bit and introduce himself, and we'll get rolling.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tony Rawl, Omaha, Nebraska. I'm part of I'm the G in the LGBTQ community, I guess, and I'm 29. My views are pretty complex, I guess I'd say. I have some different backgrounds, liberal and Republican, and I think they merged together to help me find a really good common ground. I'm also a big believer in freedom of speech, so I look forward to sharing my opinions with you guys.
Awesome.
I want to start by saying I love watching Tony post on Facebook because people come out of the woodworks like crazy after his ideologies just because he's not the wokest in the room. And I'm like, you understand you're talking to a gay black male, right? Like, who are you to talk about LGBTQ?
Right?
Like, fuck you.
I'm gonna need a friend request after this, because I'm all about it. I'm gonna get in there and see what Tony's got to say on the daily.
Crazy. It's definitely
That's
crazy.
Awesome. I'm just literally like the meme sitting eating popcorn, Michael Jackson. That's me. I'm like, I can't get enough. I love this shit.
Thank you. I'm glad you guys like it.
I do enjoy it a lot.
Questions you have first or comments, I guess?
You know what? I guess I'll start, and we'll start, I guess, a little bit general-ish, I guess. So how has, I guess, given the climate that we're in now, how has that, affected you, outside of Facebook? Just, I guess, kind of in your daily life, interacting with people, and perhaps even people that know you.
I guess as far as the trans issue, if it comes up, my views, I guess, are expressed, which are a little complex. The liberal or the LGBT community right away after I make my view known.
Man, I saw you get so into that, and I think your internet might have screwed you just a little bit, because we missed like a large chunk of that. We caught like the tail end. So at the risk of being repetitive, just run through it again. Yeah, run through it again, and hopefully.
So, when the topics come out about transgender while I'm out in my daily life, I try to express my opinion or ask questions, and it is met with immediate rejection, or I'll be called a bigot, or I basically am kicked out of the community right away, the liberal and the LGBT.
Dang. So having said that,
sorry, you're gay. You're not allowed.
You're gay, but you're not gay enough.
You want to be inclusive to everyone, but not you.
Well, I'm sure Alex saw the one about the police officers. I was kicked out of the black community real quick with that one.
Oh, Jesus, no. So let's get into that a little bit more. So let's kind of expound or expand upon what what your views are a little bit for our listeners.
Okay. I think that it's okay for people to have or want, I guess, even of the norm, I guess, single sex spaces. For a long time, women and for men, I guess, there's our biology when we grow up and go through time to hopefully become adults and make children. If we are doing that or not, we have lots of similarities because our biology is changing. And I can see where it'd be hard and uncomfortable for someone who is going about their life as a man, and they're in
Losing him again.
Yeah, I know it.
That apartment internet.
You hate it. You hate to see it.
And
boys to be boys, for lack of a better term. And if you don't, you're not listening. You're silencing a group of people for one person, because the numbers of transgenders is not very high. I'm just going to be honest. And I could see why someone would be uncomfortable and want to share a single sex space with people who are similar to them. And the same is going for women. But men cannot chop off their junk until they're at least of 18. So you're going to a bathroom or being in a locker room with someone who is walking having a penis, and you don't know if they want to assault you. You don't know if they're whatever they're fucking doing. That could be an uncomfortable situation. Why are your feelings not valid? Why are you a bigot then? Why are you? That's part one.
I think what you're talking about goes back to also like what J.K. Rowling came under fire for, basically saying men cannot have periods, which I understand from a biological standpoint. That is 1,000% true, and no one should be quote unquote canceled for saying a statement. You know, we say
Right.
Believe science all the time when we're talking about like climate change, but as soon as we start talking about biology, that somehow gets twisted with that narrative of saying, well, wait a minute. You know, boys can have babies. Well, no, I'm sorry, they can't.
Yeah, no,
If a boy wants to identify as a girl, that's fine. Let me know what to call you. You know, I'm not going to be like, I'm never calling you she or Darla in my whole life, you know, because I know that boy was born as a man. Like, I will 1,000% support you if you want to live your life as a female. Like, that's your choice, that's your right, and I'll call you whatever I want or whatever you want me to call you to make you feel comfortable. But I'm sorry, that person cannot have a baby because they were born as a man. It's just that simple.
Or a period.
Yeah,
Right.
or a period. It's just, and you take away from the plot or the struggle of women who actually have to deal with menstruation cycles and childbirth. You're taking away from their plot or their story when you start to say, well, now that I've decided I'm a female, I struggle just as much as you do. Like, motherfucker, no, you don't. Like, no, you don't. I'm sorry, but you don't. Like, it's just that simple.
I completely agree with that. So thank you for sharing that part.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how I elaborate on that. I learned, actually, I want to share some information if it's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So I asked some questions on my Facebook, and I finally got someone to reach out. A pretty cool friend of mine. She's a therapist, actually. But she explained, one, there's a lot more words than we think there is, which this information is very readily available to people. So I can understand why people are very confused.
Right.
So when someone's gender dysphoric, essentially, it means that they don't like these part of their bodies. It's not that there's any science to prove that they should be cut off or dismantled. It is simply the matter of fact that mentally they don't like them.
Well,
Right.
and let me expand on that to give more light, because it's the same as body dysmorphia, right?
Yes.
You're talking about the same categories of not liking that part of your body, where i.e. a very fit, skinny man or woman could look at their body and they, like, for 90% of the community, they are toned and fit and they look good, but that person looks in the mirror and is like, shit, I look fat. Like, it's the same mental ideology.
Yep. And there's no science to prove that it's actually different. I want to be very clear.
Right.
As far as science has gotten is the brain for people who are transgendered, which it does not also exclude gay people, in my opinion, is it has there's several different names for the chemicals, but it's more like a woman. That's okay. I can accept that truth. But saying that this evidence justifies wanting to dismantle your body, there's no grounds for that.
Right. And I feel like that would venture into a type of I guess along the same lines as body dysmorphia. You get into a mental health issue at that point where you don't like yourself so much that now you want to essentially mutilate yourself. And it almost I would say get very close to the same type of thing when people cut themselves or anything like that. It kind of, for I guess for me anyway, it it leans in that direction, or at least there's similarities in that area.
Absolutely.
There was a therapist on Joe Rogan, and he caught a lot of shit for this. And everybody knows I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. Where she was saying there's almost an epidemic of young girls going through gender changes at a very young age because it's almost trendy, and
Yeah.
people are praising them. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. Like, if you're a girl and you feel like you're a man and you're trapped in a man's body and you become the right age and you're like, hey, I've been dealing with this for my whole life, I just want to be a man, go do your thing. But we shouldn't make it like a trendy, like woke thing to do, because there's studies that these young girls go through these transformations, and they have to go through the counseling, but even the counseling's like, girl, I'm so proud of you, or boy, whatever, he, she,
It's very pat on the back.
Yeah, it's like, you're so brave for doing this, and it's less of a counseling and more of a pat on the back. And then they get to be 18, 19, 20, and they're either committing suicide. Fact, look up the rate. Suicide rates do not drop in general when people have the gender transformation. In general, suicide rates do not drop. Again, if you want to do it. That's fine. I don't care. But don't make it trendy and woke and like something that's like cool to do or whatever, because that's not.
It happened before with the gay community. You remember back in the day, everyone decided they wanted to be bisexual for a little bit,
right?
And then
exactly.
You know what I mean? That was a
thing. Yes, that's the.
It was a thing.
Exactly.
And I think it's not helpful in making these things, trendy or the woke thing to do. It actually ends up more so hurting the cause of the people that actually, either are, specifically transgender, gay, lesbian, whatever letter you fall under in LGBTQI plus. It hurts. It making it this trendy thing hurts. Y'all's like shit. I mean,
the ones who are really struggling.
The ones who are really struggling. Like it hurts that platform. It hurts that platform and your voice in your struggle rather than helping it.
I want to say something on that topic. That was awesome, Ben. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
During the whole process of this becoming a thing, I started thinking about my life and thinking I do lots of girly things, but my parents raised me to believe like, love yourself, love your body. They're religious. They would say, God made you this way, Tony. But you can be as gay as fuck as you want.
Right.
But transgenders are basically saying, like, I'm a girl, I playing with G.I. Joes, therefore I am a man. And that's not what makes a man a man.
Right.
And so that was kind of, to me, as an adult, I'm hearing all these kids say, this is why I'm this gender. And it would be the dumbest shit in the world. I want to wear a dress. I want to paint my nails. My name is, instead of Adam, it's Allison. That is not at all what makes you a fucking girl.
Right. And it's so weird to me now that like society twisted and turned that and said that, oh, if your daughter or your son plays with G.I. Joes or Barbies respectively, then now they're like, oh, these are early warning signs. And it's like, no, they're just kids being kids playing with fucking dolls. Let them play with dolls. Don't try and push some societal narrative or some woke ass thing onto them when they're in such a infantile or early development, an undeveloped state. So now you've had your parents or whoever, society, pushing this upon these impressionable young people, and they get it twisted before they're of an age where they can make up their own mind.
One of my favorite activities when I was between like 3 and 5 was putting on one of my mom's dresses and her heels and walking around in her closet. And let me tell you,
I've done that shit too as a kid.
I am as heterosexual as they come. Like and again, not anything against anyone who is homosexual. Just me personally, I don't have an ounce of it. Like so if you would have told me, like, as a 4-year-old, like, if my parents would have been sitting there like, oh, look at Alex, he's going to be a good transgender when he grows up. Like, no, that's not the way it was. I just like putting on dresses and heels, like, I guess, as a 5-year-old, because I like playing dress up,
Right. And like
the two don't correlate.
No, not at all. Like the same thing kind of, I guess, goes for me. So like I've been mistaken many times for being gay. Partly probably because my best friend is gay and I hang out with him. But even before I knew him, there was times that I would do what I guess some would consider sort of like effeminate things, but I always kind of phrased it as like metrosexual when that was like the trendy fucking keyword for it or whatever. But it's like, no, I'm as straight as the day is long, but sometimes I can like play a role or put on like something like that because it's either comedic value or
And
or I have sometimes that ability to tap into the more sensitive side when I need to or whatever.
And when our gay best friend gets drunk and starts jumping on the couch and humping us on the couch at South Padre, we're not like, ew, you're fucking gay, get off me. It's like, okay, yeah,
No,
he's my
fuck no,
friend.
dude.
Like, this isn't
He's
sexual.
he's
Like,
my best
just
friend.
fucking
I
around.
ride
Like,
with it, and
yeah.
like people are
It
like,
doesn't matter.
"What the hell's going on over there?" And I'm like,
You're
"Go
like,
back to your drinks."
Not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
But now the narrative is, though, if you do those feminine things, we're skipping over that maybe these are just characteristic, no gender norms. We're skipping that and
Yeah.
going straight to you are probably living a lie.
Yeah,
Cut it off.
Yeah.
Accept your truth.
yeah,
Yeah, dude.
yeah. It's wild. And chat's already mentioned this, and this is a good point. They said it's weird that the trans stuff seems to reinforce traditional gender stereotypes in a roundabout way. It's like basically normal gender stereotypes with more steps.
I
Yep.
love you. I don't know you. Give me second gay best friend.
Yes, let's do it.
We're taking new applications every day.
always.
And you're already in. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, I hope we didn't lose him. Come on, come back to us, Tony.
Yeah. His internet's lagging a little bit. I have a question for him once he catches up also.
Anyway, I guess. Oh, there he goes. Now he's back. We're good.
We lost you for a second.
No, we're good.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No worries.
But yeah, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say I had a question for you, but I don't want to cut you off for anything you want to add.
No, answer. Ask. Go ahead.
Okay, what would? Because are you a foster child?
I was adopted. I was a foster child for 3 years.
And then you were adopted.
Yes.
Okay, and both of your parents are religious white people, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I would identify myself as a religious white person also, but it sounds like I'm more in your parents' category. And in the religious world, one of the things that drives me the most crazy is this narrative if you're gay, that you're going against God. And I believe what your parents believe also, well, then God made you that way, and that's pretty sick to make you that way. What would you say to someone that says you have the ability to choose whether you're gay or not, that's a choice? What would you say to that person?
I think that's an awesome question, first of all. And I would explain to them my story of how it started, which is a pretty funny one. And that's also how I became so accepted in high school, is I would just say, when I was a kid, it started moving for the Green Power Ranger, and I was like, holy shit. I didn't know what that meant yet. that was how it happened. No, dude, seriously.
No, I believe you. I fully believe you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I like the pink one a lot. Kimberly was the shit. I just have my Megazord. I just bought off a fucking Amazon. And I love Kimberly. I love her. And I'm like, my brother goes, Tony, when it does that, it's supposed to be for girls. And I'm like, it's not.
It's not happening for girls, bro. The Green Power Ranger.
And so which also is awesome question, because biology, I incorporate these two things that was relatable for these straight guys, because we are going to all go through this journey where it moves.
Right.
And they were like, okay, you're fucking gay. This is real life for him. And that's what I tell religious people, like, how can I change that? Can you change that? And they'd be like, I can't. I feel you.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's
yeah, this is one of the things for me about the religious community and just how hypocritical that they can be. It's just it boils my blood. And my brother's in the chat as well. He's saying the same type of thing. So he said, I don't remember Jesus saying anything about homosexuals, and coming from a preacher's kid background, I don't remember any time Jesus was like, homosexuals are going to hell.
I am about 99.9% sure that Jesus makes no reference
Like,
of homosexuals.
not even once. The thing that religious people like to do a lot is reference the Old Testament in regards to all of this. But what they fail to do throughout all of this is reference the other texts that say women are not allowed to like cut the sides of their hair, shave their hair on that side. Not allowed to speak or hold positions of power.
Speak in church at all.
Yeah, speak in church. There's plenty of other texts that outline other things. but they don't want to look at those parts. They just consistently and constantly rip scripture out of context to fit their narrative. And it aggravates me to no end because the golden rule, basically, all this is love your neighbor as yourself. That's the golden rule, and Jesus preached on that multiple times. So the thing for me is now, and I heard this multiple times in church growing up, is that when the New Testament came around, the Old Testament basically became a frame of reference, and now we, as Christians or religious people, are to live by the New Testament and what Jesus preached on through the Gospels. And like my brother in chat said, not once did he mention anything about gay people going to hell and hating gay people and not loving people for people, which is how our parents raised us, is to basically judge somebody by the content of their character, not by how they look, not how they orientate themselves or what their sexual preference is or anything like that.
I agree with that.
Not to like humble brag, but I have a few friends. Well, this isn't the humble brag. I have a few friends that are very gay, and one of them, we were at a bar one time, and he was introducing me to some of his female friends, and they were talking about some sort of Christianity or something, and they asked me, well, what do you believe? And I'm like, well, I'm a Christian. And they're like, so you believe in the Bible? I'm like, well, generally, yeah. I mean, I'm non-denominational, so I have my own ideas. And they're like, oh my God. And my buddy Luke, shout out to Luke if he's listening, was like, no, he's a good Christian. He's a good Christian. He's not a bad Christian. I'm like, it's so sad that has to be like, I came here with my friend who's very gay and I love him to death. And I would give him a kiss on the cheek right now because I love this guy to death. Like, just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I'm sorry that we've given you that impression, but like
that we're not all like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people are quick to judge and put people in these massive categories. And I think that I did a video about education. I got a little off track before, but if you give people their space to ask questions and be confused, I found that most everybody will get to some type of understanding if you give them time.
Yeah.
I really seriously.
No, absolutely.
When I came out as gay, I became famous in 24 hours. Famous, literally fucking, and I'm so fucking famous. I have to delete people and add other hot guys from my. You may know this person. He's hot. Delete other person. Add him.
You didn't delete me. I'm very glad you didn't delete me.
Now I've got to make sure that there's room in Tony's friend bank for me.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
The first time I met Tony was at a party, and it was like a celebrity walked in, and everybody's like, "Gay Tony's here. Gay Tony's here." I'm like, is that offensive? Like, I don't want to.
Is he cool with that?
And
like,
he literally introduces himself to me, gives me a big hug. He's like, "I'm Gay Tony." I'm like, okay, I can call you that, and like, you're not gonna be mad, right? And he's like, "No, that's what everybody calls me." I'm like, "Cool, Gay Tony's here." I fucking love Gay Tony. Like, yeah, will you text me next time you're in town? Like, cause let's fucking party, dude. I like you a lot.
And I would give people their chance to ask questions and stuff about what was going on with me. And I found that people from all different backgrounds were okay with it. They felt too afraid to even say anything from how society acts now.
Right.
So that would have closed the door for all the conversation for it to get better.
Right. And this is what's important, what Alex and I harp on every week we're live, is that we like to have a space where people can come and ask questions and talk and work through things. And then at the end of the day, we'd be like, all right, cool. And then move on with our lives and nobody hates anybody.
Mm-hmm. I think this is awesome. I also want to let you know I was going to live stream it, but I wasn't. This is my first time doing this. So if you guys invite me back, I'm going to put it on my live video.
Okay.
You will be invited back for sure.
For sure. I mean, and this will be up on YouTube within the next few days anyway. So
also, and I'll share it too.
One of our listeners, her name is Poison Fantasy. Shout out to Poison. She listens every week and she's an awesome person. She's actually found some personal mental healing through this podcast also, which is what we set out to do, which is awesome. She says, "Tony, you're an absolute angel. I don't know you, but I love you already. Purple Heart, the world needs more of you, Purple Heart." So you have one big fan.
Thank you. I'm so happy. I hope to see you again.
Yes.
I also want you guys to know that people message me when I post those things, and I get so many thank yous. And I can just, as meeting both of you right now, I cannot imagine I'd get even more messages. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's good. And I like that there's so many messages of people saying thank you, and that's what makes it a lot worth it, and that's what makes it worth it for us while we do this too, is people that the positive feedback, because you're reaching people.
Yeah.
One topic I did want to kind of discuss about the transgender thing, and this is it just makes me kind of laugh when I hear it. Is that people they from people from that community tell you, like, if a straight man doesn't want to date a transgender person, like it was a man that transitioned to a woman or something like that, they go, "You're transphobic," blah blah blah, and it's like, wait, why are you telling me who I can and cannot date, or labeling me as transphobic because I don't want to date someone who's transgender? When y'all just went through the same thing not that long ago. So now you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like, what is going through your minds right now? Like, the struggle, the early gay people, lesbian people, transgender people that were there early when in the movement, when this all started, like, they're probably just going, no, stop, damn it, stop. Like, and this is why now we've have people out here labeling themselves as super straight because they feel like they have, and they want to be included in the LGBTQI plus moniker, because they feel like now they have to absolutely come out and be like, I'm super straight. I'm not like straight, which is a little iffy. I'm super straight. Like you're shooting yourselves in the foot. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
I'm super, super gay, just so you know. I saw that shit online and I was like, fuck. And it says, it's like pink news. It's like these assholes are posting this. And I'm like, shit, I'm one of those assholes.
And it's like they're not. We're not assholes.
Damn it.
Y'all are being the assholes because now you're forcing people to be like, no, I strictly only like women, or as a girl, I strictly only like dudes. Like, don't shame me because I don't have a little wishy-washy type of like, maybe if I was drunk enough, I'd take one in the butt. Like, no.
It's okay, but here's the thing. There's two parts to this, and thank you, Ben, because that happened to me. This is fucking great.
Thank you. We go. Let's get into it. Popcorn time.
Oh my god. First of all, I'm on Grindr,
right?
And so every once in a while, I have an itch I need to have scratched. So I log on one day and live my best life, and I'm talking to this guy, essentially. There's no picture on there. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, probably in the closet. I can get over the self-hatred thing. So we're talking, and I'm like, great, come over 8:00. Perfect. Can't wait to see you. You got to leave by 9 because I got homework. Anyway, so guys like, wait, hold up. So I got to tell you something. And I'm like, all right, let's have it. And I'm expecting, I'm bigger than my picture shows. Okay, I could take that. But no, I have a vagina. Oh yeah. So I'm like, what do you mean? It gets better. I have boobs too. I'm transitioning. I won't have a penis or my boobs until I don't know what they were like. A few years away from having their surgery. They were in line to have their surgery.
Right.
And I tell this person, I go, we've been talking for 4 hours. I'm like fucking super gay. I need a dick. Like, not that I need a and you have I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're on a gay dating app.
Right.
Like, we have categories, like saying what we're looking for, and not one says boobs.
Right.
Or vagina. Like, literally. So this I guess it's a guy, essentially, who I guess is upset and calls me transphobic because I'm ending the conversation. I'm a little pissed.
Right.
I let this guy know, you need to go to an app or go find a safe space where you are with people who are probably going to want to play with the parts that
you have, yeah.
Yeah, fuck, man.
Like, yeah, it's that's I hate that his immediate response, I guess his immediate response was, you're transphobic. It's like, no, I know what I want.
So, for guys, there's a pump. It's a fucking pump. It's not it's not a dick. It's a pump. They pump up, and there's only certain limitations to this pump when you get this. Okay, so I'm just trying to be real. People have preferences and things they like, and that is totally cool, and we should not take that away from people, in my opinion. But that's that. And also for women that get their stuff changed in, well, a penis changed into a vagina, there's only so much feeling they can give it, and so far back it can go.
Right.
Like it's not a normal. It does not have the flexibility of a normal. I'm sure both of you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you guys know.
I'm familiar.
So, and I think it's not fair to instantly label someone such a hateful word when they have a preference.
Right.
Sorry, there's a child there.
That's okay. She can't hear.
No, she can't.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, no, that's the thing now is now I feel like a vast majority of the LGBTQ community is becoming contradictory to themselves, and there's very few people like you who are like I guess the voice of reason in that community. Like, whoa, wait, we've made these strides, we've gotten this far, we've done a good thing, and the stigma and the taboo and the hatred around it is dwindling and becoming less and less. And what you guys are doing is just is essentially just reversing everything we've worked so hard for in getting our acceptance. And now you're bringing us back to where people are not gonna like us anymore, because now we're gonna get put in that big cauldron of like, oh, you're one of those. Like with Alex, when he's like, oh, you're a Christian, so you're one of those people. And it's just like, you guys are hurting yourselves more than you're helping yourselves. And that's not like you, but just like in general, that group.
That's 100% how I feel.
Who's anybody to tell a homosexual man what his preferences should or shouldn't be, or a heterosexual man, or a heterosexual male or female, or a bisexual female? Like, what, that you're completely destroying the whole purpose of the movement.
Right.
You're telling people what they should and shouldn't like, which was how we got into this mess in the first place.
Right. Alex,
Like,
boost your mic volume up a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
You got quiet.
It's just insane to me. I just don't understand it.
And I think that recently, after discovering even your guys' podcast and other people's opinions, I would like to open that dialogue up, because that's the whole reason I became Gay Tony in the first place. Like, what the name? I mean,
right.
Gay part's always been there, but
that's been there. But now we have an online moniker.
No, well, people feel this way, you guys. People really do feel confused. And when they don't have a way to talk, I'm seeing that people, when I'm out in public, they feel like they have to agree with something, or they stop talking completely, and which means the problem is never going to get solved.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not having a kid, I'm not adopting a kid and bringing them to school and have on first grade day of school, this teacher's going to tell them they can be a fucking girl.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
And like, God bless your parents also. I just want to mention that real quick. I don't want to derail the conversation, but God bless your parents for A, adopting a child, and B, finding out that that child was homosexual and giving you the space and saying, hey, we love you. God loves you. Be yourself, be who you are, love your own individual. And I feel like that's what's somewhat put you in a position now where you can have this freedom of saying, well, hey, look, yeah, I like guys. But I'm not out here to say, like, every straight white male that talks to me, if they even refer to me as Gay Tony, it's like, how dare you? Because it's a hard time when you're trying to be politically correct as a straight white male, as are like Ben and I, who really do want everyone to be as happy as possible. That's why we started this podcast. Let's talk. Let's be happy. Let's open the dialogue. Let's not fall into these narratives. And it, like you just said, people clam up and they get nervous because they don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to get canceled. And an individual like yourself who gives people that freedom and that willingness to say, hey, look, you might say one thing that I might be like, hey, don't say that again. Like, and it might not have even meant to be, you know, hurtful or whatever. And then that person can learn and grow and say, hey, I didn't mean it like that. Let's move on. And I promise you that I won't say those words again. But nobody does that. It was just, I don't know if you kept up with the Creighton head coach.
A whole new way to block
of the basketball team.
I didn't, but I want to hear.
He used the term plantation in referring to his basketball team. He said, I can't have anybody leaving the plantation right now.
Oh, and, God, I can see where this is going to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he got put on administrative leave right away. we talked about this last week, so I won't bore everybody again, but I'll give you some insight. His son, when his son played for him, who's obviously white, his best friend, his roommate, was a young black male, and his son's roommate would talk about the McDermotts, the head coach, about how like he would invite him over for Easter, or if he couldn't make it home for his birthday, whatever. I'm making up scenarios. The McDermotts would be like, hey, you're coming to our house. Like, we're going to love on you. You can't make it back home. They were almost like his second family.
Yeah.
Now, I know his choice of words was poor, and thank God they didn't fire the poor guy. But the definition of plantation could equal farm or ranch. You know, the guy is not a racist.
Not mean black.
Right.
The guy's not a racist.
Like, holy shit.
The guy wasn't trying to say I can't have my slaves running off the plantation. That's not what like, he had a bad choice of words for sure, but that's not the meaning behind his words.
Right. And the thing that messes me up for all of this is, and we talked about this a bunch, is that cancel culture has just fucked a lot of things up for a lot of people, because now they've just immediately put horrible connotations onto things that didn't need to have it in the first place, like plantation. Seemingly innocent word normally, but since we become this so like woke ass society, now that is immediately put into, oh well, you meant, you know, that in reference to slavery. And it's like, no, it's just like that was a turn of phrase for forever, and nobody seemed to have a problem with it. But now we all have a problem with that, and with it, all sorts of things. It's just
it's like turned into this hate speech, which isn't even technically hate speech.
right. It's just ridiculous.
And it takes away from real hate speech. When somebody's really being a homophobic piece of shit, that you take away from that platform to where we can be like, hey, that guy just said something that is not nice, and we really should go after him and say like, dude, don't say that. Girl, don't say that anymore. When you muddle it all up, it's like, okay, another person with hate speech. Now we got to sift through this one and find out, you know, whether or not we should really cancel this person or not.
It's all just knee-jerk reactions now, and nobody takes the time to stop and think and really dive into it and figure out what the meaning was behind it. I'm going to check in with chat real fast. So Abby said, back when we were talking about, you know, being gay or bi, actually this was recent, but, you know, it was based off what Tony said not too long ago. She goes, you know, she said that's why for her, it was really tough for her to come out as bi, because it's like so extreme now. You know, you just can't be a simple thing. It's like there's a community and everything, which is some people just don't care to be super into it like that. And if, you know, if she doesn't want to be a part of the community, she could get canceled or looked at as fake or something like that. And then Poison agreed with her, and she's saying, you know, that's why she doesn't tell people that she's bi, because it's not a big deal, and it's not something that defines her as a person. It's just her preference. And then if I butcher your name, I am so
Good
sorry.
luck saying that
but
name. Yeah, I don't know what that
Shimmer Zeus. We're just gonna go with that.
A new person here. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
person.
appreciate you stopping in. You know, that's why you know, that's why they think it's important not to shy away even having these kind of encounters. Not all trans people are like this, and they don't feel that to have their, you know, they need to have their own community specifically. You know, we as LGBTQ plus people need to learn to dialogue with each other and not push us elsewhere when it's too uncomfortable, which is true. It's very true. It's like everybody, you know, I'm not trying to say that we all need to be like this super soft, like all inclusive community, blah, 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 but we don't need to be so standoffish when someone doesn't, you know, fit the mold that a certain community has put in their minds of how somebody needs to be. And it can be LGBTQ, it can be anything really.
Agreed.
So
I'm asking Chimera Zeus to give me some sort of way for me to identify them. They don't have to put their name if they don't want to. Oh, Jesus, what's up, dude? He's another one of I went to high school with Jesus.
Oh, awesome.
And he is a homosexual as well. And yeah, good company. Tony, maybe a prospect for you.
Yeah, I'm in company. Alex, I wanted to let you
never know.
Information. You talked about my family for a second. I wanted to tell you something that will lead to, I think, another conversation.
Perfect.
And of course, as soon as he gets
You're
talking
lagging a
about
little
it,
bit.
it's
Yeah, I
stopped.
know.
We're gonna have to we have to have him run it back.
I know.
Got cut off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you cut off.
run it back, Tony.
Run it back.
There's an issue in America of white people adopting African American children, and they are met with a million walls because the court systems, specifically, don't believe that they are adequate to raise a white person, a black child, because they're white, which in and of itself is a race thing.
Right. It's
So
so
that's a
that's
later.
That's the opinion of the court system? That's like a real opinion of the court
It's a
system?
real, very real issue. I
That's
was social
so-
for 5 years. It's bad.
that's so wild that the courts are just like, you know, that steeped in it. Like, oh, you want to be a white person, you know, adopting, you know, a black child. Like, nah, that's not. You can't do that. It's like, why? You know, I could give them a good life. Who cares what, you know, if they don't basically grow up into the image that you have said of what a black person in America is supposed to look like, sound like, or act like. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, and it's what blows my mind is when white Americans travel to different countries. And they hear black people in other countries talk, and they're like, "Whoa, what the fuck is this?" And it's like, you know, and even here, not all black people are thugs, and they don't all have to talk a certain way, act a certain way. They don't all have to like rap music or, you know, whatever. I know plenty of black people that are like super into, you know, anime or Star Wars or any other type of that nerdy ass shit. They don't, and I say nerdy ass shit in the most heartfelt way because I am also into that. But like, you know, they don't
Same.
they don't, you know, they don't you know, some of them don't like rap music, and that's fine. Everybody has their own preferences of what they like. Stop trying to squeeze people into these molds of what you think a person is supposed to look, act, or sound like.
Well, that falls into a line of thinking. I was watching this documentary on this Hispanic kid the other day, who his parents treated him worse than a dog and ended up basically abusing him to death. I don't want to go into the details, but it's really sad. It's on Netflix. You can go watch it. I wish I could remember the little kid's name. I think it's like Jacob Gutierrez or something like that. Really, really horrible, sad story about how the court system, the state, everybody failed him. But at one point in time when he was a baby, he was with his uncle who happens to be homosexual and has a homosexual partner. I'm not going to tear up talking about this, I promise. But he was with them, and his mom and that mother's boyfriend, basically the incentive was to collect more money from the state each month by claiming him as a dependent. And they went to the court, and their reason to get their son back was because he was with two homosexual individuals. And it was in the eyes of the court that it's better for the child to be with his mom, who literally abused him to death. They ended up beating this child to death. He had a 6x6 box, like a filing cabinet, that they used to lock this kid in for days.
God.
He slept in there, and the other siblings would sneak to feed him food. They would sneak in there and bring scraps from the dinner table so they could feed this kid because they were worried about him. And all the court had to do was let this child stay with the homosexual couple uncle that was raising him, and he would have had a happy, loving, absolutely amazing child's dream to live in, to grow up in. But the court took the position that he was better with his mom, who ended up abusing him to death, than he was with the homosexual couple.
And that
And like
sucks,
that,
man.
like I get chills talking about it because that's why we do this, and it's like stories like that drive us to this point where we're all sitting around looking at each other, black, white, homosexual, trans, whatever, and we're like, we have to be better, guys. Like, we have to be better. We have to be adults and be able to live with each other and realize that there's not these harsh, rugged boxes that we put people in we just have to have some common sense and do what's right for people.
Exactly, and Metters brings up a good point. He's like the notion that it's worse for a child to be adopted by parents of a different race than to be adopted at all is the epitome of what is wrong with our system.
I agree,
And that's
very
true.
commonly happens.
Yeah,
It's
and it sucks. And I hope that we've kind of at least the system is broken out of the mold of oh, it's not good for a child to be adopted by a homosexual couple or whatever, because that'll mold them in such a way that either we don't like based off the court's personal beliefs or preferences, rather than being like, or these people will give this child the best shot at life and a good example of what a healthy relationship looks like, whether it's a gay relationship or not. And at that, and the kid, when they become old enough, can make up their own damn mind about what their preference or their orientation is based off whatever their biological makeup is and their chemical makeup is in their brain.
Absolutely. I think that from my experience, from what I've seen with that, is it's gotten better as far as if you're homosexual. If you're a privatized adoption company that's religious, which, honestly, they're allowed to have their beliefs. So if you are, that's America, though. I'm saying seriously, though. Like, I'm not one to be a hater. If that's your belief system, then I can't really argue with that. You are entitled to your beliefs.
Right.
That's why we like living in this country. But so it's not as bad. I think the aspect that they told my parents was, which I think is still current, is the cultural aspect.
Yeah.
I think that might be a topic for later on, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's like goes back a little bit to what I was saying, where they try and pigeonhole people into how their vision of how people are supposed to look and act in a certain way based off skin color, which if would just be the most ideal thing ever if we could just take that aspect out and look at everything objectively and be like, will this kid have a good life?
Absolutely. I completely fucking agree.
Well, I've seen a lot lately also on and this is no slander towards the black community, excuse me, about like calling people within their own community if they act too white, like the Uncle Tom has always been the, like, or the house N word, has been, and that's kind of making a resurgence. I don't even want to say the term. I don't want to use, I'll spell it out. COON, within their own community, describing African Americans like who aren't quote unquote black enough. Like, well, what?
Yeah, like what does that mean to be black enough? Like, and I hate that. And this is good that you brought that up, Alex, because I want to talk about this stuff too in regards to what happened in Atlanta recently, and just a lot of videos that I've seen recently of how people within the black community are treating each other. It's like, they have the, your Black Lives Matter movement. Alex and I have, talked about before, and just for those of you that are new or whatever, it's we agree with that statement as a whole, but not the principles of the people that founded like that organization.
No, dude, I don't think Black Lives Matter at all. In fact, I don't even know why Tony's here right now.
but God bless it. But it's like, you're pushing for that racial equality, and that's great. That's awesome. But at the same time, while you're pushing for yours, don't forget the plight of the other marginalized races that live and reside in America as well. And at the same time, don't come at people within your own community who might not share your viewpoint to a T or whatever, or bring an objective opinion to the matter at hand, because that objective opinion is coming from somebody that lives and resides in your community, and they have a different way of looking at things. Like, they can realize that yes, this is a problem, but also here's a more constructive way to do it, instead of just being aggro and violent, for example, all the time about it. And so it's the same type of thing. You end up shooting yourself in the foot by bickering amongst yourselves in your own community about the issue at hand.
That's extremely true. And there's a lot of facts that this country is missing about this Black Lives Matter movement and about the black community as a whole, which is extremely sad. And I think that I want you to know that I have been shunned recently now by the obviously LGBT community and liberals, but I've also been shunned my whole life by African Americans. It's a huge issue. And I don't.
dive deeper into that. How have you been shunned by the Black community? I want more details on that.
You're gonna love this.
I'm gonna love it. Yeah, no,
Let's get into it.
You're gonna love this.
I've seen some of it on Facebook, so I'm kind of teeing you up here because I know a little bit, but I want more details on that.
Okay, so I primarily have been very celebrated my whole life for being who I was, Black and gay, and my mom moved to Omaha in 2006. She moved a whole family. She wanted me to be involved in any gangs, which I don't know why would happen, but she moved us to Omaha, and it was my first time. It was. I know, it's so funny. She moved all her. And I have white siblings. They're all her kids. And I'm like the favorite child. She moved all of them over. She goes, Tony will not be in gangs. He will not be a sticker. Yeah.
And you're like, Mom, do you know me? Like,
yeah.
That's Tony out joining the gang.
It's so great. Anyway, so she wanted me to be involved in the healthy part of African American culture, which was a lot for me. So I go to this school, Burke High School, which, whatever. But the first day, my first time ever really truly meeting a Black peer of my age group was that. And by sixth period, I had to leave school, just so you know. My dad had picked me up.
oh no.
I was bad. So in my first class, this girl asked me, the African American girl turns around and she says, "Why do you talk like that?" This is first period. And I'm thinking, oh fuck, she knows I'm fucking gay. Nope. That is not why she asked me that question. She asked me, and she explained it herself. She goes, "Why do you talk so white?" I didn't know that was a thing. So this white girl gets up and turns around and says, "You need to leave him alone. He doesn't understand what you're saying to him because I don't know Ebonics. Leave him alone." This continues each class period. Someone asks me a new question, all with the frame of I am white. And I'm sitting here and I can't figure out what the fuck this means. I'm like looking at,
I was about to say, you're sitting there doing this like,
I'm like, holy shit. So by sixth period, this African-American man says, you know, I don't know why I talk this way. What are you talking about? And this little white cheerleader turns around and she goes, "You better leave him the fuck alone." And that Black guy is like, "I'm going to jump him after school." I have never heard this term before. So I want to leave, and I do leave. And this white girl, smaller than his Black guy, is like, "I'm going to beat your ass after school with my pom-poms and everything."
Let's go, girl. Yas queen.
Yes. So, and I'm scared for her, so I leave school. But this continues through like the rest of my high school experience.
Damn.
When I came out, white people celebrated me. We learned together about this whole gay shit. It was great. But the Black community, fun fact actually, which still pertains to today, is the highest race that rejects my culture. Gay people. Black people are the most to reject them. Out of Hispanics, Asian, out of white people, no one talks about this, except for there was one actor that did. That's so you could see why during the Black Lives Matter movement, why I was very hesitant to supporting this culture that did not like me.
Right.
Thank you.
That is so.
I think that's the first that I've like really ever heard of it being, you know, like the Black community just shuns people of their own culture and community that come out as gay. They're just like, not.
And it's highly met with violence, more so than any other cultures.
Wow.
Say if you're gay and you're white and your family doesn't accept you, they'll kick you out. Like, that's not good, but we'll fix it. But violence.
Yeah, that's a little harder to.
And these are facts that are important that no one talks about. I also would like to say there was a status I posted, I think Alex saw it, about the police thing. So some more information is 2 weeks prior to this, the George Floyd incident, I had actually had someone over online and they woke up in the morning and punched me, took my money and left.
Oh my God. I feel like I remember Alex talking about that.
It was insane. So I, as I normally did, called the police. I have been attacked before in North Omaha, which is primarily African-American, when I was a social worker. And it's never gotten really bad because each time the police have stepped in or been there, and it has been amazing. Now, mind you, as Alex knows, I'm gay as fuck. I got shawls. I'm fucking gay. And not once has my experience with the police officers been bad. Right. It's been amazing. I think actually helped me more than they're helping everyone else. And so I leave this comment online and I'm met with all this rage and anger from honestly liberals and African Americans. Anyone that was on my Facebook that was Black, as Alex saw before, puts me in a box. Tony, why are you saying this? You're a Black, American. Like, you can't like the police.
Yeah, you're supposed to be of the mindset that, ACAB and like fuck, all that stuff, and it's like, well, wait.
Yes. And the narrative that's being spread right now, you guys, is actually really detrimental to society. It's not that let's talk about how the cops we're hiring that are bad. It's that let's defund the police.
Right.
Police are bad. This is not a good narrative at all.
No, and it's not, and I hate it. And there's a lot of people that like display that ACAB all over their social media and stuff, and it's like, well, like we said, you've pigeonholed the police, even the good ones, into a box that's not helpful, and it makes their job even harder when they're, for the most part, the majority of police are out there helping people every day, but now it's further propagating the fact that people are scared to come up to the police now for no reason. So now somebody that could be in trouble, a child or something, hearing all of this goes, oh, a police officer, wait, they're all bad, they're not going to help me. Now what do you do?
Very true. And I've already seen it happen personally myself. There was also a West Road shooting too. It affects the police officers too, honestly. There was a shooting, I don't know if Alex may have seen this too, I don't or you, Ben, but at West Road Mall in Omaha, and a police officer got shot in the face 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
By an African-American man stealing a shirt from the fucking mall. Yes. And the news article doesn't feature any color in this at all. Whereas if a white man shoots a Black police officer, that's the top of the fucking headline.
Right.
I also would like people to acknowledge that the officer stated, I was very afraid to use my gun because of what's been going on. I just was trying to do my job, and he's now in the fucking hospital, badly injured.
Thank God.
He's
most likely going to survive, thank God.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's an issue.
Tony, that's one of the ones that I was referring to earlier. Tony posted on his Facebook something to the effect of, I'll paraphrase, white male officer is in the hospital. I think he fired 4 shots and actually struck him twice in the head. And there's no riots, there's no signs, there's no posters, there's no nothing. Where if the roles were reversed, white officer shoots Black man for trying to steal shirt from the mall, it would be insane. It'd be pandemonium. People'd be in the streets, calling for justice, which when Tony posts this, he's now the thing that cracks me up the most is all the white people. All the white people, dude, that just roll in as like, Tony, is a Black man, you should be more of a proponent for the Black community. It's like,
this is the thing that bothers me the most, dude, is
what are you talking about? Like, are you fucking psycho?
At the
risk, and they're trying to silence me.
At the risk of pigeonholing people myself, white liberals, especially Karens, are the worst at being offended for other people. And it's like, stay in your lane, bitch. Just like stay in your lane. Like, if he's not offended by it and is actually, and has his own opinion on it, leave him the fuck alone. You don't need to be out here white knighting for every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you think doesn't match up with your liberal viewpoint. People have differences. It's fine. If that is a gay Black man, Tony wants to support an officer that got shot for just trying to do his job because some scumbag's trying to steal a fucking shirt, he can put that out there, and you don't need to fucking hate him for it and try and pigeonhole Tony in a liberal circle of like, we all as liberals hate the police, defund them all. Like, first of all, you're stupid. Second of all, shut up.
And how racist is it for you as a white person to tell a Black person how they should feel about the Black community? Like, you have no idea. You have no idea. So shut up. Don't.
Or even Black gay man. This guy silenced me. That is Jordan. He messaged me privately and goes, "You need to stop posting these things."
Get exposed.
And I'm
Jordan.
like, his Jordan McEwen. He's on there. He's always telling me what to do.
Yeah, fuck you.
I'll call him. I'll go fuck.
Fuck you, Jordan.
Jordan. We're
You need to stop
gaslighting
posting
you.
these things. Yeah, well, like, fuck, man. I'm like, Jordan, you're literally doing the opposite of what your massive liberal views are by silencing me.
Right, and that's another
And-
thing. It's so wild is that the liberals end up shooting themselves in the foot too. They're like, "Oh, we're so progressive and so accepting," but also shut the fuck up. Like,
And
what?
you brought it up earlier, Tony. Here's what we all want, okay? Let's just all sit down and talk about it. We all want people to be happy. We don't want people
Yes.
to be judged based on the color of their skin or who they're attracted to. Cool? We're all on the same page. We don't want black people to get shot because they're black. We don't want officers to get shot because they're trying to do their job and they're afraid to use their firearm. So
Yep.
can we all just sit down and put away these crazy narratives and this wokeness and just sit down and say, hey, we all just want what's best for each other. So let's stop screaming at each other and telling each other how to live and sit down and say, you do what you want to do. I'll do what I want to do. I'll believe what I want to believe. And hey, after I get done with work today, we'll grab a beer and some dinner and be friends.
Yep.
And it's not that difficult.
I wish there was an opportunity too to talk about like how to truly make things better. So like when the George Floyd thing happened, it comes down to systemic racism, which I understand. I've tried to research this and there's a lot of fake news out there. I get that. But I want you guys to know that I also tried to do a paper a while ago, a few years ago about this. I'm not saying that Black lives don't matter as far as the police brutality. That is definitely an issue. But another fun fact is the fastest way that my people are dying, they don't even like me, is from them killing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
No one talks about this as an issue. We are dying remarkably fast in any mathematical equation of a white person killing a police officer, and it is never talked about. I did a huge paper in school, and the white teacher, it was a primarily black class in North Omaha for social work. He says, Tony, I can't let you read this last paragraph in class, literally, and I couldn't do it. He said that everyone's gonna get angry at you.
Okay,
and
fine.
I said, I'm trying to understand.
What was the
Why
last
is-
paragraph?
It was basically, I tried to go into a solution, and the solution that I came up with, which I can tell everyone about all these, I have a bullet point presentation, but the solution is these problems are starting in our community and they start at home. So we are actually we need to be the solution. There is nothing, any of you guys, any white people, any Asian, you guys can't do anything. It is starting with us. It is actually 100% starting in our community.
You know, and I believe it, and I hear it, and I've probably tried to say it at some point, but you know, it does. It starts in the home, and you know that's where that's where the focus needs to be.
Well, and we've talked in the background. Sorry, Tony's freezing again. I was trying to get that one.
Unused
And
each
also-
year. Does anyone know that? So it's not like Black people are being held down and cannot go to fucking college here. They're unused, you guys. They're unused.
You were frozen there for a second. I'm guessing your scholarships.
Scholarships.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's what I was assuming. There's also that video of that Milwaukee police chief who he's in the hospital and he got to the hospital late because a white officer shot a black man, and he was being ridiculed for checking his phone at a press conference. And the reason why he was checking his phone was because there was a 5-year-old girl, African-American girl, who was shot in the head and killed sitting at her dinner table that evening. And he was getting updates. It was a drive-by on that girl who had been shot and killed in a drive-by, innocent 5-year-old girl. And he was like, that's why I was checking my phone. Like, that's what we're dealing with while you guys sit around here and play race wars, which, again, no one wants black individuals to be killed solely because they're black by the police department. And it seems like that's played a large role in the police department in the past, to where African Americans are profiled. We've talked about Elijah, what's his last name? The autistic kid.
Oh yeah, the from Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah,
Yep.
Completely senseless, stupid, clearly profiled as a black young American, and was treated more aggressively because of the color of his skin. Nobody likes that. But we also need to put that same energy into making sure that we set the black community up to be able to be successful, and that we don't put these kids into a situation where they either have to join a gang to make money, or to just become nothing and work 3 or 4 jobs just to try to pay the rent in their apartment building. Like
Yep.
there has to be an in-between in there. We all see
Right.
the room for improvement, but the more we sit around and blame white versus black versus the real issues at hand, the more we just kick the can down the road and the same shit's going to keep happening.
We're not solving anything. I'm hearing tons of fucking complaints, but no solutions.
No solutions. You're exactly right.
Constantly.
Right. And you know, even moving forward, like I know white versus black has become just a big, you know, media talking point and everything right now, but also, you know, we don't need to forget about there's a lot, and we saw recently a lot of Asian American hate now too,
Yep.
because of how the mainstream media portrayed, you know, coronavirus coming about and everything like that. And so then we run into instances like we had just this past week down in Atlanta. I think it was Atlanta. I really hope that I'm not, you know, off base in that, where this white dude goes and shoots up a nail salon or a spa or something like that, and injures 8 and kills 6, all Asian American women. And then for him to come out and say, no, it wasn't based on race. It was because I'm a sex addict. I don't know one fucking sex addict that goes and shoots a place up because he can't get a nut. All right, like that's not what, like that doesn't happen. So this was 100% based on your actions, racially charged for some reason or another, and now you're trying to wiggle it out. And what sucks is I've seen a lot of well, not a lot, but I've seen a couple of videos of you know, African Americans essentially diminishing the plight of the Asian Americans. You're right now as well. Instead of grouping together and going, "Hey, we're in this together." You know, there is systemic racism, and it's not just us. It's all marginalized groups in the United States. One thing that really like bothered me was, you know, Jeremy Lin. He's an NBA player. He's been really vocal about it as well. And some old head. I really hope that I don't get in trouble for saying that. Some you know, other you know, African American basketball player who played, I think, back in like the early 2000s or 90s.
And this is going back like 2 or 3 years ago. This isn't even
No, this one was recent.
About the dread thing.
Was it? Oh, was that 2 years? Was that a couple years ago?
It was a couple of years ago. Anyway,
well, either way, that got swept under the rug too. But he, you know, he made comments about, you know, Jeremy Lin like wearing dreads and like appropriating culture or whatever, like that. And you know, Jeremy was like, no, that's not what's happening. It's like you know, we're like kind of all in this together type deal. And that dude was just, you know, like, nah, you don't have it as bad as us. And it's like, well, you know, maybe it's not as bad, but it's still not great.
That comment shouldn't even be made.
Exactly. And it's just like,
I don't even know how those comments are even being made.
It's just, there's a lot. There's actually, like, there's a lot. I've seen it a lot recently. It sucks. There's a lot of, like, there's been a lot of attacks against Asian American people. Like, there's been just Asian Americans walking down the street getting, like, pushed into the ground. You know, the shooting that happened, a lot of, you know, hurtful and racist comments being made. And it's not just white people that are doing it.
Well,
it's all culture.
It's the battle for the wokeness, right? It's the battle for who's the most oppressed. And our culture is insanely good these days about suffering well. Like, we like being sad for some reason. We like feeling like we're oppressed and that why we're in the position that we're in isn't our fault.
America is really good about not taking personal responsibility. They always want to. America's become very good at pushing the blame onto somebody else and blaming somebody else for the predicament that you're in, and not taking personal stock and personal accountability for how you got to the situation that you're in right now. You just want to go, this situation sucks, and it's that dude's fault. And it's not just one people. White people do it. Black people do it. Asian people do it. Like, everybody does it.
When there's a very clear attack on Asian America right now, largely because of the narrative around where the virus came from and how it started, and Trump gets up there and calls it the fucking China virus and shit, and people have a direct correlation. But let's not sit and say, well, the Asians don't have as hard of a time as a young black American, or young black Americans don't have as hard of enough time in America right now because Asians are being, you know, persecuted. Let's sit and say, okay, there's problems. We need to fix them. And how do we fix them? And where do we go from here?
Yeah, there's never, like Tony said, and like we've said before, there's never any solutions presented. It's always like one problem after another, and nobody's really working to fix it. Everybody's just kind of yelling loudly, and like that's about it.
Poor me, constantly. Poor me.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a minute because Chad has been popping off.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab
and,
another beer real quick. We're going a little bit over an hour, which is fantastic.
That's
we
fine.
can go
We
as
usually-
long as
yeah.
we want.
We've been kind of running.
I just didn't bring enough beers up to
No,
my
you're
office.
good. We've been
so
kind of
I'm gonna run
running
down and grab
typically
another one.
now at about like an hour and a half, so we're doing just fine. So I'm gonna go all the way back to Shimra Zeus, and I'm sorry, I know you put your name up there earlier. Let me find Jesus. So I was close enough. So this is going back to how Tony, to what you were talking about, where gay people in the black community are shunned all the time, and typically with violence. So he says. He commented and said, to be fair, it happens a lot in the Hispanic community as well, but simply not in America. But being Hispanic himself and being raised in a Hispanic household, derogatory terminology towards LGBTQ plus people is super predominant. Also in Mexico, the macho man ideal still exists. So being gay is not exactly acceptable within families or religion, because Mexico itself is predominantly Catholic.
Yes.
I mean, the Vatican still makes it well known gays are not okay. And that's the Vatican
Yeah, that's
itself.
right.
I know Pope Francis is working very hard, and I would say diligently to try and change that narrative, which is why I like Pope Francis a lot. So yeah, not saying it or discrediting anything you said, but Jesus wanted to point out as well that that still happens within other communities as well, but
I validate you,
not
Jesus.
maybe not to the degree.
I am glad that Jesus made that comment, because I was going to speak earlier about the Hispanic community. That boy that I was referencing earlier, where his parents basically abused him to death. He was a Hispanic boy in a Hispanic family, and one of the comments that his mom's boyfriend made consistently, and called him a few times while he was literally beating him to death, was a gay comment about, they call him the gay boy, like, because he was softer spoken, he was more emotional, caring, loving. There was definitely a stigma of homosexuality within this young child, which is so fucking sick and horrible to think about, that while he was getting beaten to death, that his mother's boyfriend was calling him gay boy. Like, it's just so horrible to think about, but it is a problem within each community and each ethnicity, this stigma of either homosexuality or this softness. It exists within every community. I'm not Hispanic. I grew up around a lot of Hispanic people. I will forever identify myself some sort of tie to the Hispanic community, but I'm really glad that he said that, because it's shocking the stigmas that are out there, because it's you're not black enough, or you're not macho enough to be a Hispanic boy, or whatever. It's
sad.
It is sad. One of the other comments I wanted to bring light to was Squash, my brother. He said woke culture has definitely gone backwards. He saw a post recently online of how only Chinese and Asian people should use chopsticks. So that chopstick use should be relegated only to people of Asian descent or the Asian persuasion, which is dumb, because I love using chopsticks to eat my sushi and other traditional like Chinese foods when I go out. It's not cultural appropriation to do that. I feel it's more of respecting the culture that you're participating in and how they do things. I feel like it's a respect factor, not a I'm trying to be this culture.
You would, as a white male, like to appropriate the Asian culture by using chopsticks.
Yeah,
You
100
fucking racist asshole.
100%.
I always knew you were a racist,
Yep,
Ben.
deep
I
down.
always knew it. Always knew it.
So
I think that's sad that they're doing that.
It's very sad. It's really dumb. Jesus also commented really recently that the Hispanic community has that problem too. There's a lot of self-sabotaging within their own community. Mexicans do well in America, become so Americanized that they in turn go against the Mexican folks that are also trying to make it into the country and make a life for themselves here. And that's why a portion of Hispanics were Trump supporters. It's shocking to see how many were Trump supporters even within his own family. But that's because Mexicans tend to keep each other down.
Coke, Justice Coke.
Welcome back, Coke.
Justice, welcome back. He got turned down for a raise in a management position one time because he was white, and it would put off the quote unquote wrong message if they promoted a white person over a Hispanic individual.
And
he lives in South Texas, where I grew up, which is 98% Hispanic community, and it's like that's. Guys, that's so fucking racist.
No, it is, and we've talked about it before. How affirmative action is not as helpful as people would think it is.
Spike Cohen talked about that. Oh, dude, I love.
She talked about it. I don't always like her, but I do believe about that affirmative action. She talked about it. Do I want someone who's going to lead the team best, or do I want to hire them because they're black and we need to meet this quota and they're going to run my business into the fucking ground?
Right.
And she argued with this black guy about it, and if you're not qualified for the job and you don't, and I don't know what you want me to do, hire them just because they are the color of their, that is racism. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. And I've had that same mindset too, because there was a huge billboard in Kansas City, downtown Kansas City, that said sometimes the best candidate isn't always the most qualified candidate, or something to that degree, that shit narrative. Yeah. Thank you. And they had a picture of an African American girl on there, and I was just like, that's so backwards. The right pick for a position, any position, no matter what, is always the best candidate, and no matter what skin color they are. It doesn't matter. If their credentials and their things that they've done throughout their schooling or their life make them the best fit for that job, then hire them and leave race out of it.
That's what we want. We want race to be left out of it. We want you to pick the best person.
Just look at people, like we've said before so many times. Look at people as people, not what that person's wrapped in, what their packaging is.
Completely agree. That's crazy. There would be a billboard of that in camp. What the fuck? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Kansas City likes to try and be this kind of like little beacon of wokeness and shit in the Midwest, which, I mean, whatever. I loved Kansas City. I still do, but there's things that I'm just like, why?
And I should clarify also, before somebody clips me out, saying I love Candace Owens. I love Candace Owens' passion. I'll say that much. Like, and then it's the same idea when white liberals try to attack Candace Owens as a black female in the community. It's like, who the fuck are you to tell a black female how to be a black female as a white individual? Like, that's so fucking crazy. It's so dumb. Let them be people. Let them have their own ideas. It's okay, and you can disagree. That's fine. But the amount of black people that hate Candace Owens is a lot, and I just don't understand. Like, listen, I don't love a lot of. Oh, who's one that I don't like? Mitch McConnell, and he's a Republican, white dude. I don't hate him because he's an old Republican white dude. I happen to be more Republican than anything, but I don't hate him because he's an old Republican white dude. I don't like him because I think he's fucking a lunatic, and he plays politics with real issues that will help American people, and I don't like that. Doesn't matter what your skin color is. Doesn't matter what you identify as. Right. I just don't like you.
And Jesus makes the same kind of point. He goes, it's the same reason that he told his friends who asked if he would vote for Pete Buttigieg for president, based solely on the fact that Pete is gay. And Jesus was like, I'm going to vote for him if he's the right candidate, not just because he's gay.
Great example. It'd be the same thing as if Tony and Jesus, this is a perfect example, as homosexuals in America were like, well, you're going to vote for the gay president, right? Like, well, maybe if he's the best guy,
if he's the right choice.
It'd be like coming to me and saying like, hey, you're going to vote for that ginger candidate, right? Because you're a ginger. Like, well, no, not necessarily. Like,
see,
if I think he's the best guy or girl, then yeah, absolutely. But just because I was born with fucking red hair doesn't mean I'm going to vote for the redheaded candidate. Like, that's insane. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
I think if we want to make a change, then these kind of conversations, even the ones we're having, need to be even more well accessed to other people.
Yeah.
That's like I just want to throw that idea out there.
Yeah, no, and that's a big part of the reason Alex and I started this and continue to do it is because we want to get this type of forum and space out there for people to have these conversations and get out there. This is why we do it live, so we have people come in and we can talk to them, and then this is why I post it on YouTube later, so that we can then engage with an audience that perhaps doesn't want to come in and see it live.
Yeah.
And Tony's trying to start his own podcast right now. So by the time we have him on again, he'll be able to have his own podcast and we'll be able to plug that. So that's something.
Yeah, this is super cool.
That's awesome.
I'm all about this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of therapeutic for me, guys. It's been really helpful. Like,
good.
I feel way better once I'm done.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It is.
No, it really is. And it's so nice to have someone. We talk all the time on this podcast about not wanting to live in an echo chamber where we just have people that come on that agree with us and that we just sit here and we say the same things all the time. And even though you're saying a lot of the same sentiments that we've echoed in the past, to have someone that doesn't look like us, that's not attracted to females, those little things that where typically when you speak out, or not even speak out, but you disagree with a person that doesn't look like you and identify like you, and you say, hey, I don't necessarily agree with that, and they fire right back, well, you must be homophobic or you must be racist. It's like, well, no, that's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm just trying to say I don't agree with you. And it's nice.
And those are pretty big insults.
Yeah.
They are. So I'm saying you're racist.
Yeah, I know.
That's a very hateful thing to say. And I have a really good example. I work at an apartment complex and I lease to people, and there's like 400 something units. We have this old gay man who's my neighbor, and we have another neighbor of a couple black people, and they're younger. And this white neighbor of mine, he's upset with this black couple. Essentially, they are smoking weed. Honestly, I know they're smoking weed. You can do whatever you want to do, but he's an older person from a different time,
right?
And my supervisors have labeled him racist.
Now,
mind you, this white guy brings me food for shoveling his driveway. And I'm like, you guys,
dude, super
I'm like,
racist.
I think he's just, yes. I'm like, I think he's just frustrated. And they're like, no, he's racist.
Like, no.
And they're white people themselves. I'm like, can you please stop calling him racist? He's really not racist.
No, Tony. No, Tony, the black man, you're wrong.
You're so wrong.
No, he's like racist.
It was the most. That's what hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
Because here he's being labeled this hateful person, and I think he's just one. He's confused because they are doing illicit drugs, but two, he's just frustrated by his neighbors, and you're giving him this label now of a hateful person, and that's so fucked up.
Yeah, my man just doesn't want to live next to people that he doesn't want to smell the gas all the time.
Yes. Yeah. How could he get all the way to racist?
Right? Like, he just wants to, like, he could give a fuck less. I bet you if it was white people next door smoking weed all the time, he'd be like, can you stop?
Yes. And what's funny is the neighbors before that were white, and he had the same problem.
Yeah. Same thing.
I'm just, my mind is blown. And I go home and I'm just like, what country do I live in?
Right. Going back to our comments about having this space where we talk about things, Squat, yes. My brother goes, am I hearing that we shop this around to radio stations? I'd be here for it. I'd be here for it. We'll shop this one and we'll shop Tony's as well. Let's fucking get it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people will listen to my stuff. I just didn't really know how this all worked. So next week will be really exciting.
Hell yeah.
I get a lot of.
And then on a completely unrelated note, Arkansas just won their round 2 game. Let's go, baby!
I support this. I don't know who they are, but okay.
March Madness.
Over.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, basketball. Baller.
Yay, ball. Sports ball.
Yeah.
Back to that topic. I talked about this a little bit. I can't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, but my girlfriend got told by a white colleague she was singing a rap song, rapping it, and happened to say Nigga while the song was being played, and her white friend was like, "You can't say that." She was like, "Oh my God, I'm really sorry. Like, I didn't necessarily mean to say that word." And she's like, "You can't say that for the black community." I'm like, again, apparently you can't say that you're not a racist now because you have black friends. But in my mind, I'm like, well, if I have black friends, I'm clearly not a racist, right? Like, I really don't give a
Like,
fuck.
if I
But
was racist, I would not be sitting here talking to Tony. I
but
wouldn't have
apparently that's
other
not
black friends. Like,
apparently that's not justification now. But I'm like, if I surveyed all of the black friends that I had and said, "Do you have a problem with my girlfriend singing a song that includes the word Nigga while she's singing a part of this song?" I really don't feel like any of them would be like, "Ugh, I can't believe you'd say that word. Like, I'm so offended." Like, they don't give a shit, dude. Like, it's so.
I don't understand what's even wrong with saying that. If you are, if I don't know.
this
Okay,
sounds
so
like a
there
hot
was-
take. Hold on, let's go.
It is because there was for several years. I think I have not looked up this current year's music studies, but for years, the premier buyers of African American rap music was white people. It was not the highest amount of money paid for these songs that say this word are white people. And I'm not understanding if these songs are made and they're including this racial word essentially, why the people who are paying for it can't say this word in this song, not even in a hateful manner.
They're just singing along to the song that they vibing with and they paid for.
I don't know if I'm alone for feeling that way, but I feel sometimes like I'm alone for feeling that way. It just doesn't make sense.
It's an interesting take that I've not heard before, honestly, and I'm not. I mean, goddamn, as a straight white man, at the risk of sounding racist, I guess I'm not like. I don't see anything wrong with that statement.
I love you. I agree.
Like, I don't like. In that context, you paid for the music and you're singing along to something that you enjoy. But yes, it says a word that the majority of society has deemed that is racist and not cool. But
I've likened it to using the word fairy, which I think is very appropriate for having our conversation with Tony. If I'm singing a song about fairies, mythical creatures that fly around with wings and sprinkle their dust, Tinkerbell type shit, like whatever, like obviously I am not trying to be hateful. But if I would sit here and I'm not even going to use the word in context and say that same word and say, "Tony, you're a effing," that same word, that would be extremely hateful. And
yeah,
I should catch all of the backlash for saying something so hateful as that word. But just because you say the word doesn't make you the same person, whether you're talking about Tinkerbell or you're slandering a homosexual person. Like it's a completely different context.
Yeah,
it
and
shouldn't have the same meaning or carry the same weight. There's just no way that it should.
So the thing we've gotten away from in society is the context around when things are said and what the meaning behind it is. It's all knee-jerk reactions immediately based off what the word is or what the phrase was, and then immediately going, "Nope, you're wrong." Like, meh.
Breaking up a little bit again.
Yeah.
He's talking. I can see him talking.
I know, it's that Fisher Price internet.
I know. I was gonna make a racial joke, but I won't because he can't hear me.
Yeah, you cut out. I know. You're getting into it again. It's really every time you get ready to get into it, like the society, the powers that be are like, no.
You're back.
Yeah,
You're
I
back
know.
now.
Fuck you guys. I just think that we as a society need to work on listening again because that's a huge issue. And ignoring what someone's saying and only picking out one word just means that we're kind of fucking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? Like, I mean, context is almost part of everything. Like,
it really is.
Yeah. So I went to this small town in Nebraska, and it's probably like 100 people. They had one police officer, and they've never met they've barely ever see black people, and never met a gay person. And the first word they used to describe me for several hours was fag. But they never, in the context they were using it was never bad. So that was all they knew of what I was.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
I wanted
And for a
that-
lot of
like-
homosexual people, that term would be very offensive, but you knew that they weren't trying to be offensive and labeling you as that. It was just what they knew. And
Well, and it's a good opportunity then to like look at them and go, this is like we mentioned a couple times, it's a teaching moment to be like, okay, this is what you know, and you live in your little bubble in the middle of buttfuck Nebraska, but the rest of the world is this way, and this is how we talk about things now.
And by doing that, like what you said, that was kind of where that conversation ended up going. But once by doing that, I left the next day, was fucking famous in
Yep.
Newcastle, Nebraska.
There you go.
they
Well, you
probably
got-
loved you.
Yeah, it's leaving the dialogue open though. Give them a chance to like speak where they're from, and that's also something like the gay community should really understand, is because you got to open up that conversation and then you can teach.
Right.
Because why the fuck would either of you two straight white guys know about my fucking super gay reality? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Exactly.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like,
Yeah.
And then, so Jesus is chimed in again, and he says, does the popularity of a word make that word socially acceptable? And he says, because he has friends who still say, oh, man, that's gay, or that's so... can I say faggy? That's so faggy. I'm going to say it. I still, and he goes, I still try to make it known that it's not okay to be talking like that, but at the same time, I feel like he feels that he's in the wrong because so many straight men still talk like that, and he feels that maybe he's being overly sensitive because they're not necessarily using it against me. So does that, and his question is, so does that make it okay? And I would say for you, Jesus, and you guys definitely feel free to chime in, if that personally offends you, then you can have that conversation with whoever's using that term and be like, hey man, that offends me, in the context that you're using that offends me and offends, who I am as a person. So if you could refrain from using that or find another term or another way to describe that, that would make me feel a lot better and I would appreciate it. And then, you didn't come at them like you were attacking them and be like, hey man, you can't fucking say that because I hate it. But you came at them in a tactful way, in such a way that you go, hey, that, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. And could you not? And then that I feel would go over a lot better. Unless that person's just a fucking dickhead, and then that's a whole nother conversation that needs to happen.
Tony, how would you attack that situation if someone was saying, "Oh man, that's so gay," or "That's so..." Jesus used the word, so I don't feel bad about using it. I'm just using it in context. "That's so faggy," or something to that effect. How would you attack that situation? And he's frozen up a little bit.
we're going on an adventure.
We're gonna
We're going on an adventure.
we're
I didn't
gonna
hear the question.
Well,
I didn't hear the question, but I want to make this internet work.
Well, while Tony goes on his adventure, I'll echo Ben's sentiments of saying it is 1,000% okay from you to come from a place of, hey, that makes me feel uncomfortable, and I would appreciate it if you didn't use that same terminology again going forward. Not coming from a place of like, I can't believe you would use that sort of terminology. And if it was, again, directly at you, where that person was calling you like a slander word for being homophobic, then the coin flips. Like, that's when you have the right to be like, hey man, fuck you, that's not cool at all, why would you say that? But if you feel like it's a term that's being used that offends you, that's not being directed at you, you still have every right in the world to say, hey, I'd appreciate it if you didn't say that again or use those same words again. So Tony, how would you, the question, I'm not going to say the last part again because that makes me feel uncomfortable. When someone says like, oh man, that's so gay that happened. Like, that's so unfortunate that happened. Yeah. And if that offended you, how would you pursue the next course of action and speaking to that person?
One, I try to turn things around to do a joke a little bit because it leaves the dialogue in a kind of a funner sense. And then I also try to make sure I don't shame that person, because when people feel shame, it's anyone, they can shut down, and then they probably won't even talk to you again, which you don't want. Do you know what I mean? Not that no one hates you or is upset with you, but if you end the shame, then that makes it so much more easier to start the conversation again. Right. So I definitely usually use like a joke to make it expressed. And then it's also, like he said, like Alex said, you don't need to make sure it's part of your right to say, hey, that offends me. But if you can, I find it easier to put into a joke. And I usually, the conversation will always keep on going.
Right. Abby said that, that she says that they have to teach, she's a teacher. She has to teach, her students now like a whole social emotional lesson over using the word gay. And she says it's tough because they're kids, they're in 7th grade, they don't know the difference, but they're trying to make them aware. So there's that. And Jesus is also, he said he doesn't like the feeling of having to be the teacher for his group of friends. He doesn't love that role, but he does think that it's still necessary because society still needs to be taught. But that's why he doesn't, he doesn't like having to explain, because he can't control how they're going to interpret, a teaching moment.
Also, I feel like this is a valuable moment to also insert the ideology that has been talked a lot about in a lot of like sales leadership classes and just in cultural leadership classes. There's a big reason, or there's a big difference in finding something offensive and realizing that something is offensive. I don't have to be offended personally by something that said that's offensive. If I know that person I'm never going to see again, never going to talk to again, if it ever comes up where they're like, hey, you want to go to the bar with Mike or whatever that person's name is, I'm like, that's the guy that said everything was gay last time I was around because it was unfortunate. Like, I don't really want to go to the bar with that guy again. That's completely fine. And you don't have to be the teacher. You don't have to be the person that's like responsible for everyone being of a correct mindset, if that makes sense at all. Like, there's a big difference in realizing that something is offensive and actually being offended.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have to surround yourself with those people, and you also don't have to react from a position of like, I'm so offended, I can't believe that you would say something like that. You can always pick your battles and move on down the road. But if it's somebody that you're around all the time and they're really not meaning to use hateful language, but the language that they're using makes you feel uncomfortable, you 1,000% have the right to say, hey, I don't appreciate that.
Right.
And it comes from a place of love and not from a place of like attacking.
Right. And I've got personal experience on the other end of that. So when my best friend, when he finally came out to all of us, as gay, when he finally came out, it was a large learning curve for us when we talked and interacted. And it was also, I had a lot of like flashbacks to how I used to talk, not knowing that he was gay before he came out. And I was like, oh wow, I don't know if I offended him, and like so many, like there were so many instances that he could have been so offended, but he hadn't come out yet. So then after he came out, there was times like I would literally catch myself, because I grew up in that, like, I guess you would call it toxic thing, where you'd be like, that's gay or whatever.
We grew up listening to Eminem, man.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So we had kind of had that mindset, and I came from a small town in Arkansas, so you can imagine. So like, it was that. So then I had to consciously, like, I would be playing games or talking or whatever, and I'd be like, all right, I'd say something, I'd say the F word like that, or I'd say something was gay, and I was like, oh, and I just go and like look at him and be like, I'm so sorry. And eventually, like, you figure it out and you work, and if he was offended by it or something, he would let us know and say. But he's a very chilled and laid back person. But we still were very conscious about how we talked, and we changed. Our group changed how we talked, given the fact that he came out, and it didn't break any friendships, but we all learned and grew together around that moment.
I like everything you guys said. I think, and I also want to. It's Jesus, right? That we're responding to.
Yeah.
Yep. Your new boyfriend.
I think that it really will. I think it really will be beneficial if you do talk to him. I don't think anyone, I'm a really hopeful person, but I think if you do talk to him and tell him, and kind of he even can relate to him, or even say, like, kind of like with Ben, like, I want to be your friend. I like being your friend, and you probably didn't mean to hurt me, but this hurt me. Like 99% of the time, I find it even brings people closer.
Mm-hmm.
Swear to God. Because I bet he doesn't want to lose you as a friend, believe it or not, even though you may not. You know what I mean?
Well, it would be similar. Like, I'm not trying to relate the plot of redheaded people to the plot of black people. That's not what I'm trying to do at all.
Gingers are not
like,
marginalized, Alex. Stop talking about being a ginger.
I know.
No one cares.
I'm just using it as an example, or like if there was some common terminology for people with dark hair, right? Like if someone was like, "Oh, the ginger's here," you know, and I was like, "I actually find that really hurtful. Like, how dare you use the term ginger around me?"
I'd probably call you
You
soft.
Yeah, they absolutely would, and I wouldn't blame them. But if I really had a problem with that terminology or cracker, whatever you want to use,
There you go.
I would, you could go to that person and say like, "Hey, I don't like it when you use that word. Like, could you maybe not use that word?" If they're not a total human piece of shit, they're going to be like, "I didn't even realize I was offending you, and I'm so sorry. I won't do it again." And if that person is like, "You need to buck the fuck up and just, live with it," then I'd be okay, well, I'm not gonna hang out with you anymore. I don't want to spend any more time with you. Most people, I feel, will give you that real genuine sense of, I don't want to hurt you.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything that's gonna offend you, so let me know the best way for me to communicate around you, and I will do my best to make sure you're as comfortable as possible.
Yep.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the majority of people, like you said, are like that. They'll be like, "Oh, I'm very sorry," and they'll, change.
Yes. That was awesome.
And don't call me a fucking ginger, all right?
I make no promises. I might be changing your name in my phone after this. Well, Chad, I think we're coming up on that time where I now turn it over to you guys and see if you guys have any more questions for us or for Tony, our guest. So take some time, think about anything, whatever questions you've got, and then you know what to do. Let me know.
Yeah, this is typically where we finish up with just questions from the feed, Tony. And I really do want to thank Jesus coming for coming and being so vulnerable and providing some really great feedback.
Yeah, and for talking, and I appreciate you following. You did drop a follow a little while ago. I didn't mention it because we were really on a roll, but I appreciate that as well. Yeah. So
And Jesus, when we were in high school, I don't know when he came out, so I'm sorry, Jesus, if I'm getting this wrong, but he was one of the guys that, whether he was out or not, everybody kind of knew, like your friends know, like whether or not you're out or not, everybody kind of knows. And Jesus was always such a fucking nice guy, just such a good guy. And it didn't matter whether or not he liked boys or girls. He's a good fella. I appreciate him for coming. So
I think you guys are all awesome, and thank you for having me. This
has been for sure
like the best Sunday I've had in a while.
Good, man. I'm glad.
This has been great. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Well, it's looking like nobody has any questions this week, which is perfectly fine. So with that, we'll start wrapping it up. Tony, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us and putting your story out there and your points of view. It was really great. I learned a lot about some things that I didn't even know about, which was super cool. Tony,
I love you so much, man. I'm glad you.
I love you too. Thank you.
I'm glad you got to be a part of this.
For sure. I
can't wait to share this on my page. I'm super looking forward to this.
I hope, chat, that you guys, learned some things and appreciated this as well. We appreciate you guys being here again, like every week. We love it. We love the interaction that we're getting. My brother goes, "I would fight a whole country for Tony."
Thank you.
Yes.
You're awesome. You're the leader of the army I've developed.
Yes, hell yeah. So
we're ready to go, brother. You just tell us when and where.
We'll be there.
One of these days on Facebook, it's gonna go down.
You're our leader. I'm ready to stand attention, brother.
Yep. So that's great. We've had a great time. This will be up on YouTube within the next couple of days. I got some free time, so I'll have it edited and up from there for our YouTube viewers. Guys, we appreciate you. Make sure to like. You're gonna interrupt me.
My sister says Gay Tony is my favorite. Sorry.
I fucking love you guys. This is so awesome.
For our YouTube guys, we appreciate you guys as well tuning in on the days after this. Make sure you guys leave a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. The button's right there. It's super easy. Just click it right after you leave a comment, and share it with your friends. And other than that, it's been a blast, and we love you all. And we'll see you guys next Sunday. All right.
See
Peace
you
out.
guys later.
Love you guys.